Hey, and welcome back to 996 The Howl. No updates on the arena front, still a bit quiet. People have got their opinions, but we did get confirmation and assurance by Gary Bettman saying he wants to stay in Arizona. He said why they need to stay in Arizona, the big hockey market, the big sports city that it is. So, always good to get some assurance that people actually want the team in Arizona. But let's get into the restricted free agents the Coyotes have to sign or could walk away from starting July 1st and through the summer. Not a lot of big names on this list. It's a pretty quiet off season in terms of restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents for the Coyotes. The top six is pretty much cemented for a while. I'm pretty sure you got Krause, Schmaltz, and Keller locked up. Hayden's going to be up for a contract next summer. The only guy, basically, Michelli, who's in the top six. He was in the top six last year. I think in the far future, Michelli won't be in the top six, so we'll just jump into that right now. Michelli, 22 years old, had a remarkable official rookie season. He got snubbed for the Calder nominations. A really great season. 11 goals, 38 assists, 49 points in 64 games played. He did get injured. If he didn't get injured, I'm pretty sure he would have been one of the top three nominations. A huge surprise for everyone involved in the league, the Coyotes team, and fans, even myself. Like, seeing what Michelli did the year before last season, I was unimpressed. He kind of started out pretty hot, but was quiet for a long stretch, and then all of a sudden comes in this season and fits in like a glove with Krause and Bukestad. And then when Bukestad got traded, McBain filled in that spot, and Michelli just continued to play amazing. I love the way he puck handles. He has great vision, great passing ability. Would like to see him shoot more, but it's great to have another playmaker, sort of like Keller, on our depth side. So, it's a 1-2 punch of playmaking ability of Keller and Michelli. Currently, he makes $853,000. I just went with cap hit. I didn't do salary because then you got to factor in performance bonuses, signing bonuses. So I just looked at their current cap hit and used that, as a jumping off point. To me, I think Michelli gets $2.25 million for 3 years. Michelli does not have arbitration rights, so that means the Coyotes can basically lowball him. They can basically say, hey, we're going to give you like $1 million for 3 years. And, Michelli can't go that route of arbitration. Arbitration is when a third party comes in, not affiliated with the Coyotes or the player, and they come to an agreement on a contract. The new arbitration contract can't be less than 85% of the player's current salary. What they used to determine the arbitration contract is based on performance, injury history, length of service, and leadership qualities. They do not look at comparable players or the team's cap situation as evidence to determine the arbitration rights. Everyone on here has arbitration rights except Michelli, Yannick, and Tendek. So for the Coyotes, on the Coyotes side, you want Michelli signed for as long as possible. For the player side, you want to bet on yourself and sign a shorter term contract to show that you deserve a huge contract. I don't think Michelli or the Coyotes should go for like an $8 million 8-year contract. I see sometimes that gets thrown around, but you never know. You don't want to get bit on these RFA contracts. You don't want to give them an 8-year, $8 million, and then this past season was just a flash in a pan career year. And you got to be honest, there's better prospects coming up than Michelli. Michelli isn't supposed to be this top six savior playmaker. It's amazing that he is turning into it, and all the signs point to that. But again, we have better prospects coming up, and Michelli is taking a spot in that top six until guys like Cooley, Geeky, some of these other prospects, Gunther, that's coming up next year. So you want to see how that all unfolds. Once all these prospects start to get in the NHL, where does Michelli fit? Does he become a third line winger, playmaker? Does he stay in the top six? A lot of uncertainty, But for me, you want to keep him for the next 3 years. Obviously, Michelli would want less than that. He wants 1 or 2 years to show that this wasn't a fluke season. The reason why I gave 2 million and a quarter, they gave Hayden 1.77 million after his 2 seasons. A pretty underwhelming performance. So I think he'll get more than what they gave Hayden last season when Hayden was an RFA. So I gave him about 500 grand more than Hayden last offseason. He's done more than Hayden already, not counting Hayden's last season. But I mean, when Hayden was up for his contract, Michelli's already done more and proven that he could get points and execute and help his team win. So that's where I stand. Obviously, all of these I could be way wrong. I was pretty right on the money with Hayden last offseason. I said he'd go for a bridge deal. I'm pretty sure I said about 1.5-ish in that range. So that's where I think Michelli should go. I think he deserves $2 million. As a fan, I am just worried that it was a flash in the pan, once in a lifetime year. Maybe other teams didn't take him too seriously. Now he's going to be on the bulletin board for the other teams to shut him down. So we'll see how he progresses. But yeah, a bridge deal, some sort of bridge deal is where I'm comfortable with for Michelli. Then we get to McBain, who has arbitration rights, currently making $883,000. He just won a gold medal under Andre Tourigny. We'll see what his role is next season. This team is missing a second line center because they traded away Bukestad. I didn't fill that up. The free agent market is pretty weak in terms of centermen. Not sure what you're going to do there. Do you put McBain in the second line center role? I would like to keep him third line center. And then you got Boyd. You got to figure out what to do with Travis Boyd. I think he's got one more year. To me, McBain is a really good bottom six centerman. I would love him to be a third line centerman, and that's where he is for the future of the Coyotes. But this upcoming season, if they can't afford or no one wants to come to Arizona to fill that second line center role, I was hoping it would be Logan Cooley, but he's going back to college. So maybe you do put McBain in that second line center role and see what he does. It's great that Andre Tourigny has more experience with McBain. He's got one full NHL season plus a high pressure cooker tournament in the World Cup of Hockey. So we'll see what happens with McBain. I believe they'll give him 1.5 for 3 years. The 3-year mark for me is just the mark of Mullet Arena. So obviously these could be 2 years. For me, I'm sure McBain would be really happy to make more than $1 million. He had a great season last year, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points in 82 games played. So I love the 12 goal mark. Maybe he hits 15 this upcoming season. It would be crazy and amazing if he could hit 20. I don't know if he has that in him yet. I still need to see a bit more than him, but 15 goals would be pretty good. I think he'd be ecstatic to get a $1.5 million offer and then signs that for 3 years. And then we'll see where we go from there once all our center prospects finally make the jump to the NHL. Christian Fischer, again, he kept signing those 1-year deals, but I think it's finally time to give this guy, a 4 or 5 year deal. He's not going to make too much. He is self-aware that he's not a really good hockey player. To me, in the future, he's just a fourth line guy, a gritty guy. Maybe scores 1 goal in the playoffs, maybe 2. Just like a really solid grinder with some speed. He had a couple great breakaway goals last season, using that speed, showing that deception in his shot. I give him a little bit of a raise, $1.75 million for 4 years. He's loyal to Arizona. He's great in the locker room. All the players love him. He's like the glue for the Coyotes. All these players that have traded away from the Coyotes, but still everyone keeps saying the locker room's tight. This is one of the best locker rooms they've been a part of. Guys like Gostisbehere and Bukestad have said that. So maybe it is Christian Fischer that is the glue. It could be Clayton Keller. I don't see him as being as vocal. I think Fischer's more like a comedic relief. So I think it's time to reward him, and it's not a lot of money. It's $1.75 million. If we get to money, the Coyotes are $5 million from the cap floor. So they need to actually spend money this season just to hit the floor. The current cap amount is $56 million, and $34 million of that is LTIR. So guys like Voracek, Weber, and Brian Little, they make up like 36 million right there. So I mean, Alex Morello must be ecstatic with the job that Bill Armstrong has done to artificially put money on this team that they're not actually paying. That's like 40% of their current cap hit is basically spent on players that don't even play, and not even money that the Coyotes are going to use. Without those players, the Coyotes would have to spend an extra 30 million to ice this team. So in fact, Bill Armstrong is saving ownership about 30 million this season. So that's some great management work by Bill Armstrong. And it doesn't even hurt our roster either. We're never going to be big spenders this offseason. There's even no big names this offseason that you would want to spend a lot of money. And the cap isn't even rising by a lot this season. So this is a perfect season to not spend money. You go lean. By going lean, the team actually does well by being younger than having all these anchors on the team like they did 2 years ago. So I'm really excited for this team. I think they're going to be way better than last year. Not a playoff team, but sort of like that Detroit, Ottawa type season that we saw last year. So yeah, really excited. You can give Fisher 1.75 million. Obviously overpaid, but it's not even a lot of money, and I'm sure Fisher would love some stability, some loyalty back. You know, he's shown a lot of loyalty to the team. It's time for the team to be loyal to Fisher. Spending a lot of time here. And then we get to, I'll go to Ingram, and then the rest are like Tucson Roadrunner players. So Ingram, 26 years old, making $733,000 this past season. He had an amazing season, a 907 save percentage on the Coyotes. He had like a couple rough games near the beginning of the season, but that was due to the team having rough games. It took a while for the coaching staff to trust Ingram. And then once they trusted Ingram, this guy was playing amazing. I thought he was way better than Vejmelka last season. I'm more comfortable with Ingram in net. He doesn't move around a lot, not very athletic. He's just a very sound goalie. Doesn't move around too much, which I love to see from goalies on my favorite team. So for me, I'll offer Ingram 1.5 by 2 years. He does have arbitration rights. So for me, I think Ingram's going to bet on himself. He has a bona fide backup position set up in Arizona. He could play more than backup numbers on Arizona because sometimes Vejmelka is a bit shaky and needs some load management and can't play too many games in a row. So Ingram could be that backup, be that 1B type goalie, play a lot of games, show the league what he is, and then after the 2 years, he could cash in on a bigger contract either with the Coyotes or with another team. So I think Ingram is looking for a bridge deal, show the league that he's a competent starting goalie, and then could move on from the Coyotes. So that's from Ingram's perspective. Obviously, from the Coyotes' perspective, you would love to sign him for like 1.5 or 5 years and have a bona fide backup and goalie security. But I don't think Ingram would go for that, and he could go to arbitration. If a player goes to arbitration, most of the time it's bad. But we saw last offseason that Krause and the Coyotes went to arbitration, and in the morning of the arbitration hearing, Krause signed his contract, and both parties were happy. So not necessarily if it always goes to arbitration, it's a bad thing. There's some success stories, but there's also some stories where the relationship between player and team went south. So for me, Ingram, get a bridge deal and then just prove yourself in the NHL. Then we'll get to some American Hockey League players: Yannick, Smith, Prosvetov, and Tendek. 2 goalies, 2 forwards. Smith is a centerman. Yannick is a big body winger. For Yannick, for all these guys, I would do a 2-way deal. I don't think there's anyone here I would do a 1-way deal with. A 1-way deal means you get paid the same amount in the NHL and the Tucson Roadrunners. For a 2-way, you get paid your NHL salary when you're called up, and then when you're playing on Tucson, you get American Hockey League salary. So I think all these guys would get 2-way deals. Maybe Prosvetov, you give him a 1-way deal. For Prosvetov, I'll jump to him. For me, the Coyotes roster size, it's not even big. They need to sign 10 players this offseason to hit that 23 mark. I don't even think they're going to steal all these Roadrunners, like 10 Roadrunner players, to get that 23 contract limit. If you go with what I say, Michelli, McBain, Fisher, and Ingram, that's 4 contracts. That brings you up to 17. You still need 6 more. This team is not going to spend 6 players in unrestricted free agency. I don't even think that many players want to come to Arizona right now due to the off-ice situations. So you could rotate 3 goalies. I mean, that's an option. I know a lot of people don't like that. At the end of last season, they just rode Prosvetov, and Ingram didn't play what seemed like forever. But Melka was resting a lot too, so maybe the goalies didn't like that. But maybe just to hang on to Prosvetov, you give him, sort of league minimum, $950,000 just for 1 more year. The Coyotes, like I said, they need to reach the cap floor. So it's not like they're hurting spending $900,000 on Prosvetov. Just hold on to him for 1 more year. He's going to play the majority in Tucson. If you go with what I say and you do the 3 goalie carousel and you just hold 3 goalies and rotate them, that could work too. I can see arguments why, that's not a good idea, but, just hold on to Prosvetov for 1 more year. Maybe he has a good bounce back year. He hasn't played well in a really long time. He had a 3-game stint to start last season with the Coyotes, and he played really well. And then, the next 4 or 5 just was abysmal goalie performance. He's not going to get claimed on waivers. His numbers don't suggest that he's going to get claimed. Like I said in another video, he's not Connor Ingram, who is one of the best American Hockey League goalies, and that's why the Coyotes claimed him off of waivers. There's no risk for Prosvetov getting claimed off of waivers. No team's going to take a roster spot for such a unremarkable goalie. So you could keep him for 1 year, try again, and then after that 1 year, move on, because you have Tendek, who I would sign for 2 years. He's 1 year younger than Prosvetov. He's going to be the official backup for the Roadrunners this upcoming season. He's been up and down between the East Coast Hockey League and the Roadrunners the past 2 seasons. Now you finally give him a good look on the Roadrunners. Maybe outperforms Prosvetov in this next season, and then that's when you move off of Prosvetov, and Tendek is your next goalie prospect, and then you still have Thornton and Korhonen in their minor leagues getting better and better. So at that point, then I would feel better moving off of Prosvetov. I don't think Prosvetov's going to be another Adin Hill situation who's in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's just an unbelievable story. The fact that the Coyotes traded Hill for a second and then to San Jose, and then San Jose immediately traded Hill for a 4th, and then Hill is in the Stanley Cup Finals for Vegas. That's not going to happen all the time. I think that's a fluke, and Vegas is just a really good, well-balanced team that any goalie in there, you just got to be a competent goalie, and you'll get some good performances. Not to be so hard on Hill, but he's not the reason why Vegas is where they are. We'll get back to Yannick. For me, I want Yannick in the bottom 6 of the Coyotes. I want to get younger in the bottom 6. I don't want Brett Ritchie. Don't want Nick Ritchie. Don't want Cassian. I want Kellerman and Yannick, these young guys with something to prove in the bottom 6. I don't want these anchors on the team. Yes, Cassian is signed for 1 more year, unfortunately, but I don't even think he wants to play hockey. Put him in the press box. He's honestly one of the worst Coyotes I've ever seen wear the jersey. And then you got O'Brien, who could fill in and out. If you want to fight one game, you put in O'Brien. But would love to see Kellerman and Yannick in that bottom 6. So you give Yannick a 2-year deal, 1-way contract. So he's only getting paid NHL money wherever he goes, and just work on him. He's 22 years old. Just Turney loves young guys with some skill. Yannick's a big body. He's also got some skill too. He performed really well with the Roadrunners. I would just give him a big look on the team and a longer look. He got called up last season, had like 1 bad game, and then they sent him right down immediately. Just have some patience. You're not competing for the playoffs next season anyways. This is a young guy, a big body, Bill Armstrong type guy, even though he was drafted by John Shaka. Just see what he's got. It's 2 more years. At the end of 2 years, you can move on from him, and you have so many other draft picks and prospects that could fill in his role. But right now, he fills a need that the Coyotes don't have, and a need they would go into unrestricted free agency and look at the market for. So you have a guy right here. He's young. He's got some talent. Just work on him. And then Nathan Smith, who I was surprised didn't make the roster last season, spent the whole season with the Roadrunners, didn't get called up even once. He's a centerman. To me, he's got some skill. He's not a good fourth-line centerman. He needs to be with offensive players. So I don't know. Maybe you do, a Hayden, McBain, and Smith third-line center, and then Boyd fourth-line center. Maybe. But Smith hasn't really done anything to prove that he deserves to be a centerman on the Coyotes. But to me, you give him another couple of chances. You did trade for him. So there's something Bill Armstrong and the pro scouting staff saw in Smith. They traded, I believe, a fourth-round pick for Smith from Winnipeg and Brian Little's cap hit. So they saw something in him. Don't give up on him. Maybe Smith, maybe you give him a two-way deal where if he gets called up, he makes $950, and then, he's playing on the Roadrunners and he gets, American Hockey League salary there. So that's it for all these guys. There's only really one big name in Michelli, maybe McBain, and then Fisher, I think finally deserves to be rewarded. He's been with this team for so long. He's so loyal. He wants to stay in Arizona just like we all do. We want the team to stay there. He's got a great relationship in the locker room. It's time to reward him. I wouldn't even be surprised if it goes up to $2 million. But I think what I have here is pretty fair for Fisher. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.